All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Jay. I'm here with Julia and John.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, there was you guys there?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're just introducing the podcast here. All right, well, we got Julie and John here and myself. We're starting off with psychodynamic theory. This was developed in the late 19th and early 20th century, primarily from the work of Sigmund Freud, the father, we would like to call him. Um, But I think we're all excited here to speak on this and his emphasis on the unconscious processes, the past and childhood experiences that he bases all his theories off of, and the inner conflicts influencing human behavior. Yeah, what's your guys' thoughts on that?
I really enjoy learning about this theory, especially because it's been proven to be really successful in many different disorders. I mean, I read about anorexia nervosa, borderline personality disorder, depressive disorders, OCD, generalized anxiety, panic disorder. Honestly, it covers so many bases. So I think it's a great theory to have a good understanding of.
Yeah, definitely. I also think any theory that has been around since the late 1800s and still is relevant today is definitely worth taking a look at.
Yeah, I think definitely the development of it, and then also other big names that developed with it as the time's gone on, like Carl Jung, and then also Bowlby with the object relations theory and the interpersonal psychotherapy by Klerman and Weisman. I think it's all developed, and now with therapy being used in certain ways has definitely benefited clients and in general. But I think really to start us off with Sigmund Freud and I guess just like his, the tenets of the theory on id, ego, and superego and defense mechanisms. I think Julia, you wanted to touch upon that, right?
Right. So it's really important to understand the id, the superego, and the ego. So our id is where our unconscious lies, and it's hereditary. We're born with it. It's innate. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is our superego, which is learned in childhood as we grow and develop, and that's where our morals and our values come from. And then going along with that is the ego, which is the reality. And as a counselor, this is very important because as a counselor, you want to encourage your client to develop a strong sense of ego strength and personal agency. So I think, it's also important to remember that with the ego and with Freud's theory comes the defense mechanisms that you'll see as a counselor that a client utilizes, and they utilize them to protect themselves from anxiety.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
the defense mechanisms are like pretty much like how our subconscious basically tries to like deal with our external problems on a day-to-day basis, and it looks different for everybody, but like some defense mechanisms are like denial. So you could see a client may be still in denial about reasons for what they're coming in for, like what problems they're having. Like they another one is projection, attributing one's like own feelings and memories of like an event or something onto like a relationship that's going on today. Stuff like that. I mean, you see it all the time with friends and family. You could see them like struggling with all these different defense mechanisms and whatnot.
yeah, and I think just to like continue on with that, I think the whole defense mechanisms and how like this theory focuses on like early childhood experiences. I think those defense mechanisms are like taught because of those experiences, and that unconscious part that Freud really harps on is what really brings that like that whole I guess like takedown of the how we approach that therapy and stuff. Um, but I think like I think that's when the people started to develop, and then also not only these defense mechanisms because of our childhood experiences, but then they started adding on like the whole multicultural counseling portion to it, and then as well as uh cognitive behavioral therapy, just the addition of those two, and then it has like its good base like framework, and then it continues on with adding other forms of counseling to really like guess put it together in a stronger way of attacking the problem.
Yeah.
Right. I also think that, one of the principles of the theory is that our childhood experiences leave marks on us. And uh, as a counselor, you have to understand where a person comes from in order to know how to properly treat your client.
Yeah, that's definitely where it's definitely good to have a good understanding of like multicultural backgrounds and gender differences and basically all the different things that play into one's background and how that'll affect them today.
Yeah. I mean, also with that could like lead directly into like the concerns that people have with, utilizing this theory and why it's, evolved and stuff. Like what's your guys' take on that, on the concerns of this theory?
I did read that it is criticized for being a very male focused theory, especially since Freud is the one who created it and he had a lot of, uh, gender roles, inside of his theory. So that was one criticism.
Mm.
Did anyone else find anything?
Yeah, another thing is like basically like the textbook talks about like there could be prejudice within like counseling and how like someone's background or someone can feel like uncomfortable talking to a counselor due to like different prejudices or stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Right.
think also too like psychodynamic, like the other argument was that well, first of all, it was like it's good it's like takes long term for this to like work. So that's why other like counseling, theories were like, work in conjunction with it. And I think it was more of like it spends so much time in the analysis and like the past like experiences, whereas like the actual current behavior of the client is really not at the forefront. So I think that's what the whole argument is for people saying that, it's not by itself it's not as effective, but using other counseling theories would definitely help.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like you'll also come across clients who don't feel that their past does shape who they are today. But I mean, this theory does prove against that.
Yeah.
So,
What's your guys' take on like, your own personal reaction, your own like I guess experiences with, even therapy yourself or, people who've gone through this therapy or examples or anything like that?
Um,
sorry, John, you go ahead.
yeah, I guess for me, like you could kind of see, like especially in my family, like you could see how like generationally like how like the effects of like our parents and how we were raised like kind of transitioned us like as we grew up um pretty much like how we like experienced like for example like our parents relationships and how that could affect our current relationships and so I think there definitely is a strong aspect of your childhood that is going to follow you into adulthood and will affect like your behaviors and whatnot today.
I agree with that. And I also think that, especially people who've experienced trauma, maybe in their childhood, I think that this theory could help a lot with processing those feelings and emotions and help a client understand why they would, per se, act out in a relationship against their partner or against their boss. Or I don't know, there's so many different relationships that you have as an adult that can be informed by the way that you were raised, whether you were raised with in a two-parent household or with a single mom or with siblings, without siblings. Like these experiences that you have really inform who you are as an adult, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, you guys kind of hit the main parts of that. I would definitely agree with that. I think, we are, the our childhood experiences really, turn us into what we are today, and we kind of carry our childhood experiences. So, like the focus on the past experiences is definitely, uh, a huge like part into therapy, I think. And from my own personal experience, like, there's things that I do today or the things that the way I react to certain things or, the way I was with my family growing up and then, with my friends and, with my future family and stuff like that and how I want to be, it's definitely, those are all just issues that are just always revolving around, childhood experiences. But yeah, I guess like the next
Right.
yeah,
And I was all sorry, and I was also reading that the way uh your childhood experiences could affect the way that you treat your current counselor. So that's something that a counselor has to take into account as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I think it was called transference. I'm pretty sure in counter transference is where, like for example, like a person, let's say a woman going through a divorce with a man, and the woman is kind of using that defense mechanism of displacement and taking it out on the counselor who is a man. Like kind of like taking it out on her own husband, but taking it out on her counselor because of that relationship. But yeah, that was a good point, Julia.
Right. Yeah, it's a very interesting theory, I feel.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's definitely very like relevant today. Like psychodynamic theory is pretty much like a very well known topic, and a lot of counselors use it in their practice today. So I want to kind of touch about like some of the core principles of psychodynamic theory. Um, Basically, like psychodynamic, but like we said, is pretty much like the unconscious matters in regards to our behavior today. Like our childhood experiences are gonna play a role in our behaviors. And there's a lot of techniques that a counselor can use with a client to help prompt these feelings, and give a client like insight onto how they're affecting them.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue into, actually showing, our audience here application of this role play. So I think Julia and John get into character, and let's do it.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so I will be the client.
So I guess I'm the counselor.
I'm the
All right.
spectator. I'm Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
All right. So hello, my name is John. What's your name?
My name's Julia.
What brings you in today, Julia?
I've been having a little bit of trouble in my current relationship. I have a boyfriend right now, and I think we've been together for about like a year. And I don't know, I've been having a little bit of like problem with like fully accepting him into my life and trusting that he's gonna like stick around, I guess.
Okay, so definitely a trust issue. I'm hearing. Have you had this issue with in any of your past relationships before?
I mean, this is the longest boyfriend that I've had. I've had other, boyfriends that were shorter term, uh, but there maybe 6 months, 4 months, like nothing that really was long lasting.
Okay. How is your other relationships like with family members and whatnot?
I have a good family relationship. I mean, I grew up with a single mom. She's like kind of my everything. She did an amazing job raising us, and she's such a good example for me and for me and my siblings.
Okay. What about your father? How's your relationship with your father?
So, my father left our family when I was a teenager, so I had, you know, like a rough relationship with him growing up, but he ultimately did leave, so I didn't really have that father figure when I was a young teenager.
I'm sorry to hear that. So now do you think you have like a good a good trusting relationship with your father, or
Honestly, like when I really think about it, like, you know, I don't really have that trust, especially since that person that, you're supposed to rely and depend on, like, was able to just kind of leave. So I I don't know. I haven't been able to have a strong relationship with a male partner.
okay. Yeah, I could definitely understand like how that relationship with your father could start to transition and affect your relationships with your current partners. Do you see that yourself? Do you think that that could be a contributing factor into the lack of trust within your current relationship?
I definitely think it affects like the way that I maybe behave, and like I also don't feel completely comfortable like opening up fully, like maybe because of like the fear of like them not staying around, or like like I don't know, there's multiple aspects. And then also like my dad wasn't like a warm, fuzzy, like feeling kind of person. So maybe that's also why I'm having issues like expressing this to my current partner. Like, uh,
Yeah.
what do you, I don't know.
Well, as a male counselor, I mean, you seem to have opened up pretty well with me to talking about these issues. That's definitely a good first step moving forward, you know. Um, and I think just like exploring how your past relationship with your father is affecting you today is definitely good steps forward looking at this issue.
Right. And that's why I did come to therapy because I don't want this to inform the rest of my, adult experience. I want to get this taken care of and, move forward. So I appreciate you listening to my concerns and hopefully we can keep working on this in the following, sessions to come.
Sounds good to me.
All right. That was our role
All
play.
right, good job, guys. Thanks for doing that. That was well done. This short exchange here, I think really just like debriefing it in my own terms. Julia came into this with issues with her current relationship and trusting her current partner. And as you can tell, John really tried to go into her past experiences with past relationships and not only with romantically, but also with her father and then also mother, like her familial ties and such like that. So, listening for like those unconscious patterns, it made her realize and have that self-awareness that, it was coming from a place of like, her experiences in the past. So, he also mentioned as well, that relationship between, himself as the counselor and the client, being a male and stuff. So that was another tool that we spoke about earlier about the transference, about like how she could be displacing this fear of judgment or not being able to trust the male. So he got that elephant in the room. So that was very well done, John. But yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I think it was just really a tool for using that relationship as a tool for growth there. I think that was one thing that I remember reading about was treating the client like they'd never been treated before, which is a good way of looking at it right there. But that was very well done, guys. I think now we're just gonna, let's wrap this up. I think we, spoke about the psychodynamic theory, but what's your final thoughts, your conclusions to our podcast here?
Um, I I honestly really appreciate this discussion and I strongly feel that this theory is great and can be really beneficial for many clients.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like doing the mock session, like definitely could see the strengths of this theory and how you can implicate it with pretty much a very vast, diverse group of clients. And I think pretty much anybody can get some benefits out of knowing this theory and implicating it and using it uh, in their counseling sessions.
Yeah, yeah, I think personally, I think all the different theories and, the framework of psychodynamic was I feel like they all have use in the present world for sure. I know we didn't really talk about much about it, but free association in that theory as well too. I feel like it's very important just in the fact of where there was like a quote in the book that I saw. It was like, well, not a quote, but someone I think it was saying or someone that said it was a voice must be given to all thoughts that enter the mind. And I think that part right there is pretty much saying that, like, all these thoughts that we have are somewhat related to, the behaviors that we have developed throughout our whole entire lives. And, that's why I feel like that free association can be used with, present day counseling, different theories. For example, like the cognitive behavior theory and multicultural counseling. It all wraps up together. But, yeah, I think that's my thing. I think it's something that is going to be that's used in conjunction with other theories and it's gonna benefit us as counselors to use all these different things that we have learned and shared with the rest of our audience here. But I think that's all I have if you guys don't have anything else.
I
All
think we
right.
covered. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
All
Yeah,
right.
take
Bye.
your time.
Bye.